Hello, welcome back to Los Comics TV. I'm your host, Javier Hernandez, and today we're going to do a inking video. So I'm working on the page of the comic, the graphic novel, I should say, because it's, 120-something pages. Again, if you follow me on social networks, you see me posting, I think I posted these two recently. So anyway, this is a whole page. Anyway, I got the camera really low, close to the actual area of interest, because that's what I want to focus on. So, but you know, there's the top, and here is the bottom panels, the two bottom ones. So as you hopefully you can see on the camera, you know, I do the basic drawing here, block it out with the blue pencil, this non-photo blue. Because the thing is, when I scan this in the on the scanner, in what they call the black and white mode, none of the blue shows up at all. Don't ask me how that magic works. Just the pencil line will show up. Well, actually, the ink line, because I'm going to ink it, right? And then I'm going to erase all the graphite. So when I scan it, I should say that when I scan this, I still need to erase some pencil. You can see here in the figure here. But when I erase everything and I scan it in what they call black and white mode, none of the blue pencil marks, which are through the figure here, and I think some through here, none will show up. So that saves me some time, cleanup and all that. So that's what this is going to be. It's going to be inked right now, and then I'll scan it later when I, get to scanning all the pages. So anyway, let me get started. So I've explained what I got here, right? I got a non-photo blue pencil to block out the figures, and then I use this pencil lead, right? You know what these are. So these little, I hope I have enough in here. Yeah, super thin pencil leads. Push it more back, and then it just holds it in place. So it's just in lieu of using an actual wooden pencil. I love the wooden pencils, but I do like the finer point on this here. I don't know if you could see that, but it's a really fine point. And the erase is really good. So yeah, for drawing on my boards, my illustration paper here, I like to use sorry, I'm just reaching for a piece of scratch paper to put my hand under. This should work. Here we go. Okay, so let me just get started. I'll go right to my Pentel pocket brush pen, and we'll start inking. Where do I start? So there's a lot on here, right? There's so much stuff. I usually try to start just to not run my hand across the ink, like I wouldn't ink the Diego figure, because if I ink him, when I start doing the head up here. So I will start with the conquistador's helmet. So here we go. What can I tell you, right, as I'm inking? I mean, the layouts, oh, you can hear the traffic outside. Someone's speeding through the neighborhood. He's got to get somewhere, I guess. Sorry. So what can I tell you while I'm doing this? For me, like the layouts, the thumbnails, which I think I've showed you some of those on the channel. You know, like the really rough draft done on the 8.5 by 11 paper. That to me is like a huge. I never want to say my favorite part, because the whole comic. It's not even a matter of favorite parts. It's the whole. Every step of the comic is essential to get it done, right? If anything, the favorite part is probably the book is done, printed, and in the reader's hands, because that's really why I make the comics, so I can get my story and ideas out there. But having said that, doing the rough layouts is like a huge key component, because that's when you first block out all the action, right? She's pointing this way with the gun. She's pointing that way with the gun. Then the shot of the conquistador getting hit in the chest. And then Diego coming to the side trying to knock him over, and to no avail, he falls on his butt, and then there's the menacing sword in the foreground. Like laying that out on the rough draft paper, which I guess I should have had available, is a huge step, right? It's like a big accomplishment. Like, okay, good. That's how I want to see it on the paper. And then, of course, penciling it down with the pencil and everything. That's another step, you know, because you kind of finalize it at that stage as far as how everybody's going to look, you know, the position they're in and all that. The inking stage here is, you know, another layer on the drawing stage. It's just getting the work finalized, right? For, you know, in our case, for print, because we, you know, these books do get printed, or, you know, folks who put them online. That's still the final step, right? Getting the story out there to the world. As far as the conquistador armor, yeah, I did, you know, I did my due diligence. Basically, I just did some Google searches. In the old days, the cartoonists would have a huge filing cabinet full of artwork, like articles they cut out of newspapers or magazines or even books or whatever. All their reference material, or most of it, would be at hand. So, you know, when I started making comics, for professionally 23 years ago, yeah, I didn't really keep what they call a morgue. I just went straight to, well, I probably used a lot of books in the beginning. I mean, the internet was around, obviously, but now today it's like, yeah, just do a search and boom. You know, the other night I was drawing several pages, you know, jumping back and forth between some of the pages. And, you know, among the Google searches in my thing would have been, you would have seen like knitting needles, shotgun, woman with shotgun, you know, conquistador armor, central nervous system. It's, yeah, right. Everyone's going to have whatever the story is. They're going to have just a huge variety of things in there. So I thought it was just funny, some of the stuff I have to look up, you know, in comparison to something else, right? Like right after, right? Sewing needles, knitting needles to shotguns. So, but the conquistador armor, yeah, you know, I looked at several, and sometimes right on the very first hit, you find the one that you think, you know what, that looks great, whatever the item is, whatever the thing is. But, you know, I'll look for one or two other ones to see if anything pops out visually, you know, as far as like, does this look better, whatever. And then, you know, you can take piece by piece. So for the most part, this armor is what I saw on the searches. What I really liked about it was this interesting neck piece. So, you know, they had the armor set up in a museum wherever. There was no mannequin in it. But I imagine that this throat piece here, this whole neck guard, would come up maybe up to the nose, somewhere around there. That's what it looked like. So I thought that was really interesting. I'd never seen an armor like that. I mean, because usually the person wears a helmet, and then the helmet itself covers the face and, you know, maybe the top of the chin or the throat. But this was almost like a turtleneck, where it was this big, thick piece, and it just went up halfway where I imagine the head is. So that's why I say it probably covered, I'd imagine, for sure the mouth and probably up to the nose. So anyway, I thought it was a great piece of armor. And then the rest of it is just, you know, adding little details on there and such. One of the things on this particular armor that I saw in the photograph, it had this little interesting, kind of like this little wheel, but it had these little spokes. It's almost like a clock, like a clock gear or something. And it's not like it's a robot and it needs the gear, but I don't know. I thought it was a neat place. They had it on the elbow, and it just really adds to that whole, like, you know, the bending of the elbow and such. Again, to me, it's not important what it's for. It's just a little detail. You know, it's funny about research, right? So, like, yeah, you know, I had to look up conquistador armor because I want to get it I want to get the look of mine, obviously in the proper, you know, in the correct wheelhouse, I guess you'll call it. So I couldn't draw samurai armor. I couldn't look at, you know, British armor. No. It had to be Spanish conquistador armor. So that's what we're getting here, folks. And but you know, in drawing the character over the several pages, this conquistador, yeah, definitely like I think of Doctor Doom from Marvel. It's like, well, I'm never gonna work on Fantastic Four comics, so I'll never be drawing Doctor Doom, you know, in a story. But this has been pretty fun. I kind of envision that I am drawing Doctor Doom, or at least Doctor Doom type armor. But then of course we got our hero Diego trying to take him down. But so yeah, the armor, you know, like for me again, it's like, okay, it looks like conquistador armor, and this is also to do with research and intent and such. But you know, also as a storyteller, how should I put this? Like, I'm not trying to impress you know, medieval scholar, right? Like, oh, he did the suit. It's, you know, they'll probably know which exact suit it is, like what exact year, whatever. That's fine. But really, you know, I realize the reader is just going to go through the book quick, and as long as they're going to see it, and it's like to them, it's going to register. Oh yeah, this is a conquistador suit of armor. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely not about being lazy and you don't want to do the research. What I'm saying is, I don't need to spend like 3 months researching conquistador armor. Not for this particular story, right? Because it's not a story about, you know, a Spanish conqueror. It's a scene. So cut several pages inside this hacienda, this haunted hacienda, right? The CASA del Diablo, as the title states. So, you know, we see it, and then, you know, it's in a few scenes, and then boom, then we go on to the rest of the horror stories there in the mansion, in the hacienda. So yeah, it's gotta look right, and it's gotta serve its purpose. But this suit of armor is not the whole point of the story. Otherwise, I would have to do more research just to you know, learn more about it, and maybe, you know, look at more detailed pieces of the armor, what have you. But for the purposes of just getting in and out, basically, with this concept, that's it. And then what I noticed on the photograph, there was like some in between the suits of armor, like right where it bends the shoulders and the elbows and such, there'll be like this mesh, which makes sense. I guess they wear some type of thick mesh underneath so it can bend in certain parts. But yeah, so that was my little crash course in medieval Spanish armor. I may have to come back to it another day. Actually, I know I will have to for another book. So it's not really a spoiler alert, but insofar as like, oh, okay, he's going to do some more suits of armor, but that's all we're going to talk about that here. So yeah, the research is important. Again, you know, looking up guns, shotguns, or actually, like I said, knitting needles. You know, I don't know anything about that. And I had to look up what do you call it? A knitting basket, just to see what they look like. So anyway, research is nothing new for any artist, you know, in comic books. Just sharing some thoughts on that. And if you other artists or creators out there, you know, I'm curious how much research you do. But again, I guess it depends on the project, like I said. If the whole story's about the particular thing, then yeah, I think you'd want to research it a lot more. Especially if you're doing a historical thing, right? You want to get the facts straight. Okay, so yeah, this is coming along. So ramming into the suit of armor there, the unmovable suit of armor, if I could divulge that. So normally I got music playing when I draw. I always have music playing. I can't do it in silence because my mind starts wandering, like, I don't know, like to the outside. What do I hear outside or whatever? So the music, plus the music helps not just to drown out everything, but really it helps me to get inspired. I play a lot of, but usually for the most part, I love movie scores. And by score, you know, the instrumental. I mean, the soundtrack, I guess, is what they call if there's a bunch of songs in the film. So it's the soundtrack, which there's tons of great soundtracks to listen to. But really, it's the musical scores, and I'll tell you some of the main ones I always listen to. I mean, composers, I'd have to say for sure Ennio Morricone, who's done a huge amount of work over his lengthy career, but very well known for his spaghetti westerns, right? The music he did for all those Italian spaghetti westerns, of course, so many, but the ones that I first saw as a kid were the Sergio Leone, what they call the dollar films, starring Clint Eastwood. Fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. So those scores, a lot of his music too. I really love this one called The Mission. I think it's The Mission, right? With De Niro and I want to say Jeremy Irons, but anyway, now we're getting off topic, right? We're not really not really concerned with actors right now. We're talking about scores. So that's one of them. That's one of the composers. Another composer is Danny Elfman. I mean, of course, you think of the work he's done with, you know, particularly with Tim Burton and just his style. Yeah, a lot of Danny Elfman. The one Danny Elfman score I listen to like all the time is the Batman Returns score. It's very dark, ominous, but it's also got that Danny Elfman, Tim Burton, I don't know, this weird comic opera pop about it, right? I mean, it's not like The Exorcist or The Omen. Those scores are, the Omen score, those are really terrifying, which are great also. There's something very fun and manic and wonky and also dark and such with the Elfman scores. So, you know, again, if it fits the mood of the comic, at least this comic, El Muerto. Hang on one second. Okay, here we go. I'm looking up here for the reference, right? Because the armor has details on it. And I got a little picture here. Usually I have to go to I did a full-size one, which I think I shared a few weeks ago, of the armor, more detailed. But now all I got to do is look up here, and I can see the different details he has on his suit. So, what else scores? I mean, I've been listening to the Godzilla scores. The classic Godzilla scores. See, I hate this. I just forgot the composer's name. Akira Ifukube. Yeah, the classic Godzilla scores from the 60s, 70s. Yeah, his work is legendary, and so much of that music is just, I mean, it's great in the movies, but it's just on its own. They're just, you know, they're operatic, they're melodramatic, they're big. They could be menacing, they could be melodramatic, they could be kind of dark, heroic, ominous, epic. So yeah, again, all that is just great fuel for your own stories. That's a whole topic, you know, like I'd like to talk to other artists about that, like as far as drawing and inking to music. You know, what type of music, you know, why do you pick those particular ones, stuff like that. But of course, I'll also listen to just, songs, of course. I got all my favorite albums, thanks to Spotify. You can just just cue it up. I'm definitely from the 80s. So the British new wave, or just all new wave music, I guess, but definitely the Smiths, Depeche Mode, The Cure, New Order, Psychedelic Furs, you name it. And of course, Oingo Boingo. Yeah, of course, Oingo Boingo, right? There's that Danny Elfman connection. I won't talk about it much now, but I can go into like some actual songs like the Smiths, and I can literally point out certain songs that I used to listen to over and over in my 20s, and I can see, like looking back at it now, kind of reverse engineering. I definitely see the seeds of El Muerto being planted way back then, before I even thought about doing my own comic of my own character back in my 20s. And songs by The Cure and such. Yeah, this Depeche Mode. It's unmistakable to me, right? Because I know my character, and then having heard those songs. But like I said, maybe another topic. I'll do more inking videos. I'm always gonna need stuff to talk about. So let's see. This panel's almost done, as you can, as far as the initial inking. Like I just try to do the outlines here first. So he's got a white sweatshirt, and he's got black pants. So the pants are always ink black, and I always try to, when I can, I try to indicate a little seam here on the pants on the side of the leg. Again, it's not important if it shows up all the time, and sometimes the line closes up, but that's okay. You figure you draw this, and then it's going to be reproduced at a smaller size, and then of course, depending on the paper and everything, the printing, the details. You're not going to keep every detail that you think you're putting in it, but just putting it in it, it's important for me. Like this little seam here on his pants, right? Because all pants usually have a seam on the side of it, on the outside of it. So just doing it right now, I feel like, okay, well, that's a real pants because it has a seam. Once the book comes out and if the line closes up, I'm not that concerned, because it's not like the book depends on the seam of his pants. But as an artist, it's like, okay, yeah, I put that detail in there. Some details you don't want to lose, right? Like maybe the little pupils on the eye or something. But we're talking about, we're literally talking about the seams of his pants, folks. So let's see here. I was going to use my little micron pens for this, but we'll see. Maybe not. So I'm going to use the micron pens for the rest of the detail. But you know what? So this conquistador, at least the appearance here, it's jet black. We don't see anything under the helmet, under the shadow of the helmet. So it's time to darken that, blacken that in. Oops, I gotta fix that. I just went into the line. But I can fix it with my different white pens, or I can do it in Photoshop later. But I'll try to do it here when you look. If it dries, I'll do it now. What percentage of comics today are being created on paper with ink, and what percentage are being created all digitally? I don't know the answer. What's your whistle, folks? So yeah, I'm really curious what the percentages are, and I'm sure some people were switch back and forth. They do some digital drawing, and some projects they do it on paper, traditionally, whatever you want to call it. But I would be curious of any any stats or anything. Anyone's got any hard facts on that? You know what? Okay, so yeah, I was gonna go over it with the my micron pens here. Let me show you these really quick. Right, really fine point. And they're disposed. Once the ink's dry, you throw them away and use some new ones. But I was gonna go over the details on this. Like the details here, all the little dinks and dents in the armor, because it's an old suit of armor, and then the shading. But still letting that dry, I'm going to move over to the last panel here on this page. The close-up of the gauntlet and the sword. I mean, the comic is all about the storytelling as far as the presentation of it, right? I mean, yeah, there's the actual story and yeah, the characters and all that great stuff. But me as the artist and the writer, the cartoonist, I call it, I need to direct you in every panel, direct your eye towards the final ending. And then I got to make every page interesting, every panel interesting. What does that mean, right? Interesting. Doesn't mean like everyone's got to be. This isn't the 90s, so not every panel, not every page and panel is going to be some explosive action pinup, blah, 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 whatever. Everything's got to direct the story in one way or the other. So, I saw a couple of swords, conquistador swords. And there was one that I particularly saw. It had this handle, right? The hilt, I don't know what you call it, the hilt. I don't know. That might be this part. But it had this interesting, weird, it looked like a snake, right? It was just this tubular thing wrapped around and over and back under. It was attached to this part of the sword. And I thought that was such an interesting thing. It might be a guard, right? So when the other, when another sword strikes this one and it goes all the way down, it stops at this point. I mean, all swords have that. But I just thought this interesting serpentine shaped thing here was really interesting. And I don't know, because it's serpentine, to me it kind of looks a little sinister, which I like that. Like, because that's our hero, so that is our bad guy. Well, it's a conquistador. You know how that turned out. So, yeah, I just fell in love with that design. I go, yeah, that's going on this guy's sword. There was other ones, of course, more traditional ones with just this top part without that weird serpentine snake-like thing on it. So there's no way I wasn't going to have that on my conquistador sword. And you notice I used a ruler for the pencil, but it's not that I think I know I don't, that I have a super steady hand, but I just am those aren't too bad. And the more I go on making comics, the more I'm getting used to keeping it rough. What do you want to call it, right? Freehand style. So usually the lines are laid down with the ruler. And if it's a really long line, I'll probably use a ruler of some type. But honestly, I do like freestyling the inking. I mean, I think it just adds to, quote unquote, my art style, right? Whatever it is. I'm gonna fix that with some whiteout after and add a little more details here and right now. But since I'm here at this part, I am going to use, what's this date? Yeah, let me check, make sure the ink is working on here. These rivets here along the wrist. They may not have been in the original photograph, but again, that's not important, right? This just looks like there would be rivets in it, right? In the armor, and there is in the photograph. But sometimes I choose to put it in certain spots because I just think it looks neat. Again, it's just details that you're putting in as the storyteller. Now, in this case, I'm going to switch to this pen for Diego in the background, right? Because he's smaller in the distance. And this is the menacing hand with the sword. So, because I want to show it farther back, I'm going to ink him with a thinner pen. Because the thick pen will close up a lot the lines, and I'll lose a lot of the detail. Like, look at that super thin line for the hair. I would not be able to get it with that pen, my Pentel brush pen. I'm sure we can hire one of these classic awesome inkers to do it, but we don't want to up the budget of the book, the production cost. So I'll volunteer and I'll do it. My hero, right? So here's Diego, kind of like, uh-oh. Oops. Again, the inside seam of the his hoodie. And then, yeah. It's funny. Last couple of pages I've been drawing this shoe. It looks like one of those what do you call it? Like a van sneakers, slip on. And then I looked at the comic earlier and said, oh no, he's got like actual shoes that you tie, and it's got like, what's the brand? Like the Chuck Connors, right? Like the white tip and then the white in the back, and then this will all be black, and then I'll use my white pen to draw the little shoelaces. But yeah, I had forgotten the type of shoe he had. And in fact, in one of them I had to fix it like after it was inked, because that's just not having the, you know, the previous page in front of me, or the earlier page. So at one point I forgot. But you know what? That happens. That happens. There's stories, of course, you've seen comics printed, legendary comics, where like I think Jack Kirby would have like one time he had like two left thumbs on the character. You know, just drawing so quick, drawing so fast. I don't know if I've done anything anatomically like horribly like that incorrect, but you know, like I said, mixing up the shoe for a different type of shoe, yeah, that's luckily I was correct. I discovered that before I was done and sending this off to press. So thanks, good for that. And then he's got this weird happy face design. It's like a weird I don't know what we call that expression, a weird crooked smile or something. Not a smile, it's like a weird look of consternation on the sweatshirt emoji. And they're up in the tower in his hacienda, so that's why it's a curved background. And I did use the ruler to draw the floorboards, right? The wooden floorboards. So I'm just going to get my pen and go across them. And you think, you know, ancient building, they wouldn't be perfect, actually. I don't think they would. I mean, I'm not an expert on, you know, historic castle hacienda building. You know, okay, is that line right here? Actually, that line doesn't look right. This line doesn't match up here. It's funny. I don't think I finished these lines all the way through. I guess that line is okay. That's this one here. I'll have to get the ruler just to make sure that the other line is correct. But yeah, drawing floorboards. That's part of your job. I mean, drawing everything. That's part of your job as the cartoonist. And like I said, for me, it's like, these are good. These look fine. Again, not to appall anybody, but the book's not going to live or die on the floorboards here. But you know, I don't want to make the line all crooked, you know, like a curve. But I'm just looking. Yeah, the line, it looks like the line was never originally there. I'll just do it under here. And then this one would be about right. here. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna, this is the 8. I think I'm gonna get the thinner one if I have ink in it. No, it's another 8. Let's see if I got my 05. Wow, the 05 is dry. I don't know why sometimes I know they're dry and I put it back in the pen holder, which is in my little holder, which is dumb because get rid of it. That's another 8. I do have the 5s here somewhere. Got a new pack here. I bought about 3 packs last week of 08s and 05. Okay, super new. Anyway, what I want to do is add the was it the grain of the wood? For the last several pages, because I've been in this hacienda, I've been drawing a lot of wood grain, and then like the walls, right? A lot of cracks and stipples and just little wear and tear and texture, basically, is I guess the word I was looking for. And I like doing that. I just like adding this, especially it's an old building, hacienda, and it's also evil and haunted. So even more reason that it should look ugly. And, you know, I'm using the idea of ugly that it's really worn. It's, you know, basically falling apart, cracks everywhere. So I can actually go into the pants here because they're going to be black. But I don't want to go into the white because that's his hoodie. But yeah, adding all this detail, there's just wood grain lines. I mean, yeah, they have to be imperfect. Should put some shadow under him. The ones behind him a little darker. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna finish up the pants here. And like for the most part, that'll be like that first level of black is done. And then of course I will go through and add, yeah, all the detail on the back of the wall here. A lot of cracks in the wall, a lot of stippling, a lot of age and wear and tear. And yeah, as you know, my first graphic, you know, if you see my El Muerto comics, they're done in black and white. I don't color them. I do color comics. I have, you know, several comics of mine are colored. And I even colored a couple of El Muerto stories, short stories and such. But for various reasons, you know, I do like the idea of, I know it's not the popular thing to do, a black and white graphic novel or book, even a regular comic, but I just love the aesthetic of black and white, which I talked about, right? In fact, I'll link another video here, an earlier video I did on just, I don't know, I forgot what I called it, black and white comics, my love of black and white comics, where I show you different examples of different artists who specialize or do a great job in black and white. So that'll be linked in here, probably at the end of this video. Okay, there we go. Oh, yeah. And like I said, it's got a black tennis shoe. And the white shoelace, once this is dry, I'll just put some white strips there on his, what do they call them? Chucks. Chucks, not slip-ons. Get that straight. Javier Hernandez. This back leg right here. You know, later on, it can come in white out that little piece there. And then, of course, erase everything. And, wow, here we go. So, like I said, I'm going to add a lot of detail on here, just like you saw on this, you know, on this one. And if you remember the larger one I put up. Because, yeah, I want the armor to look old, so it's all dented and scratched and such. And then there's more little design patterns in different parts of it. And of course, the background of the wall here a lot will be heavily shadowed and made all crusty and stuff. And some on this one, and then hers too. This one is all the little bullet fragments, the what do you call it, shotgun pellets, exploding off of his chest. But anyway, that's there. You know, hopefully you can see everything there. But at least the two I did today right here. Again, a lot of detail will be added. If you're following me on social network, expect to see a photograph, you know, later on after I post a video of this, a photograph with the completed scene. So that's it. That's it for me today. All I used today was what? Just the 2 inking pens, the Pentel Pocket Brush and the Micron. Before that, I got to this point with the non-photo blue pencil and my pencil here, my lead holder. And I think that's about it. So I will be coming back over this with the white, what is this, Jelly Roll? Sakura Jelly Roll 10 from Japan for some of the white, like I guess the shoelaces and such. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much. Check out the link below this video. I will post the link to my web shop. If you haven't, and you're curious to check out my comics, in particular my graphic novel, you can check that out there. The first graphic novel, Days of the Dead. This will eventually be done. The second one, CASA del Diablo. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next Los Comics TV.